There aren't a lot of us, and I'm going to have to stand kind of close. So if you'll want to scoot in as much as you're comfortable, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I'm just not going to look at you. It's up to you. With that introduction, I wasn't planning on this, but I'd like to tell a little bit of my story and how I arrived where I am in my work. I was raised in the Southern Baptist tradition in Texas, and in my mid-30s, started stepping away from that tradition into what felt like a more authentic version of spirituality for me. And something interesting that happened along the way was that I was studying to be a counselor, so I was in a master's counseling program. And within that program, I had the option to use my elective credits to study something called neurofeedback. Is anyone familiar with neurofeedback? So I'll just explain, friends, and I'll explain briefly. Neurofeedback is a form of brain training. And so if you were to come in my office and say, I'm really anxious, can we do neurofeedback? I would put these little sensors on your scalp, right where I know the brain waves for anxiety are generated. And I would read your brain waves in my software and place a target threshold for the brainwave patterns I want to see, which would indicate that your anxiety is decreasing. And when you get into the zone that I'm asking you to target, you would get feedback. And feedback is generally, we're listening to like ambient music, and it will get a little louder when you're in the zone and a little quieter when you aren't. So I'm studying neurofeedback as a modality to implement with counseling clients. And as a student, our professor scanned our brains and gave us a protocol to practice on ourselves. And guess what? I had an anxious brain. I didn't even know it. I was so used to it. And so the protocol he gave me helped me to, like, what I would say, turn down the volume of my brain to access a quieter space within me that I didn't even know existed. And at the same time, I began meditating. And I realized, oh, the way I'm training my brain with neurofeedback feels like meditation. So I asked my professor, is there anyone out there using neurofeedback for meditation? And he gave me the name of a man who happens to live in June. And one thing led to another, and here I am. I've been hearing June for about a year and a half. But I am really passionate about helping people access mind-body states that lead to greater peace and greater self-awareness. And this is one way we do that. And so something that is unique about the Neuro Meditation Institute and the way we teach meditation is that we recognize there are many ways to meditate. Many of us, when someone says meditate, we get this image of someone like sitting cross-legged on a hillside and getting very still and very quiet, right? Getting that quiet mind. That's one way to meditate. It's actually, for most people, the hardest way to meditate. And for some of us, it's actually not very helpful. People who have ADHD, we don't really want to meditate with the quiet meditation. So we individualize our meditation instruction based on our clients, their goals, and their mental health targets. And the 4 categories up here began with some inspiration from an article by Travis and Shearer in 2010. They studied the brainwave patterns of 3 different styles of meditation, and they named them focused attention, open monitoring, and automatic self-transcending. So we kept the focus style. Open monitoring we called mindfulness. There are many names for the same things. And automatic self-transcending we called quiet mind. Out in the wild, you often hear it called transcendental meditation. You guys might be familiar with that, or Zen, the Zen practice. And then we added a 4th category, open heart. The Travis and Shearer article lumped open heart in with focus because it is a focused practice, but we found the brainwave patterns were significantly different and it deserved its own category. And that's the category I want to really hone in on tonight. Open heart is often referred to as a loving kindness meditation or a metta meditation, so those might be more familiar to you. So in an open heart meditation, we're focused on generating positive feelings, positive thoughts, sending loving kindness, compassion, appreciation, forgiveness. These are the states that we are really targeting. And we have a wide variety of approaches to do that. I'm going to share with you tonight both formal and some informal practices. But before we get into that, I want to tell you a little more about the why. So, like I said earlier, we customize the meditation based on symptoms and goals and mental health targets. And so I personally feel like the open heart style is appropriate for just about anyone. It's not going to hurt anyone to practice this style. And it tends to be pretty accessible. The only people that it's a little more difficult to access are people who are in a state of active depression. For them, beginning with a simple focused practice is easier. It's hard to really generate the positive feelings we're trying to get to if you're actively depressed. But it helps greatly with mood and relationships and empathy and just feeling better. And so, I'm saying all of this. Where's the evidence? Wow. There's lots of research to support what I'm saying. These are just a few articles. They highlight some of the many ways loving kindness meditation has been studied. I won't read this slide but you can see that these studies tend to show reasonable effect sizes. People experiencing more joy, less chronic pain, overcoming trauma, feeling less depressive symptoms for those who weren't actively depressed. What's going on in your brain when you're generating the loving kindness meditation? A lot of gamma waves. Gamma waves are the fastest brain waves that we measure. They tend to run at about 40 hertz on average. And they don't show up very often. They show up in really particular special instances. We see them in people who have achieved a high level of skill, especially like performers, dancers, athletes, musicians. When they get into a flow state, we will see gamma waves. They can also represent a state of high empathy and interconnectedness, which is what tends to happen in loving kindness meditation, especially as we practice it more and more. So, what is the brain's natural state? If this is the target in our loving kindness meditation, what are we starting with? If it is difficult for you to create or engage with a positive emotion, especially trying to sustain it, you're not alone. It's naturally challenging for all of us. So think about this example. Think about stubbing your toe. How quickly do you react to that painful sensation? Immediately, right? It hurts. It lasts a long time. You're watching the corner of the bed for the next few weeks, making sure you don't do that again, right? It made an imprint on your brain. Now let's contrast that with a nice warm shower in the morning. How much do you pay attention to that? You might notice. You might be immersed in your thoughts. You might realize you're running low on shampoo. It's not going to make that automatic impact that studying your toe will make. And this is because of the way our brains are naturally wired. They're wired for survival. They're wired to remember painful experiences. Those things get imprinted automatically. And the pleasant, positive, pleasurable experiences don't imprint automatically. Why would that be? From an evolutionary perspective, you have to avoid negative things that might kill you in order to survive, right? So the sticks represent the threats in the environment. You notice those immediately. You have to run away from the tiger. The carrots, the pleasurable experiences, you don't need those to survive. So you might experience them, you might enjoy them, but they aren't the things that are keeping you physically alive. But this is the way our brain is hardwired. Just one more example of that. Rick Hansen wrote a book called Buddha's Brain, and that she coined this phrase that basically sums all of this up. Our brain is Teflon for positive experiences and Velcro for negative experiences. And that's just the way it is. You have a negative experience, you automatically stress and react. Your amygdala notices, it locks it into the hippocampus, and you're on high alert for the next time it happens. On the flip side, a positive experience will just enter right through. So let's do a little thought experiment. Imagine that you are in school or the office and you're walking down the hall and somebody walks by you and they frown. Now imagine the same exact scenario. Somebody walks by you and they smile at you. What did you notice about that? What did you notice about the frown? Did you feel that anywhere in your body? Ooh, what did I do wrong? Did I piss them off? Start building a story about it. And then the smile. Do you feel that much? It's nice, right? You might notice it. It's pleasant. But you're probably not building a story about it for the next hour, right? You're probably not wondering why they smiled at you. So if this is how our brain is naturally wired, and we'd like to change it, what do we do to overcome that? How do we increase the way our brain captures and holds positive experiences? And this is where I talk, it's a little cliche. Your grandmother was correct. You should be counting your blessings. Practicing gratitude really does generate a counter. And we recommend that not only do you practice gratitude, but you intentionally write down what you're grateful for and why. And this will allow those positive experiences to really soak in and start rewiring your brain for greater positivity. Another way you can do this is by a practice called taking the good. So you're not necessarily feeling super grateful that the sky is blue today. You can turn it into a positive experience if you want to, right? You can just pause and notice and soak in the blueness of the sky. Here's the trick. You need to focus for at least 15 or 20 seconds to really absorb that feeling of gratitude and appreciation and cause the change in your brain. And you need to do it often, right? Because we have a lot of negative experiences in our So the more we intentionally practice gratitude and appreciation, the more we begin to shift our state of mind. So that was kind of a lot of information. Do you guys have any questions?
I have a question about the negative positive experience of being hardwired. How does something like pleasure, factor in? Because pleasurable things, and some people actually become addicted to pleasurable things. So how does that kind of factor into it?
That's a great question. And that is completely different sort of topic. I don't think I can speak on it quite well enough. I think you're getting, especially at the nature of addiction, like our dopamine receptors. Yeah, that's outside of the brain waves and more into the chemistry. But yeah, that's a really good question. And I think it gets at another way of rewiring the brain, but not always in the way we want to. There is a way to so when I'm talking about gratitude and appreciation, I think it is really centered around pleasure, but leaving off the pleasure that sex is like so much.
Yeah, well, I was kind of thinking that when I was asking the question, because those pleasures maybe not being classified as experience, or some, something. Well, I said it's not really experience, but a sensation.
And I think we're getting a sort of continuum of pleasure, right? They're the ones that are really easy to remember, and they're the ones that need to be more intentional about really soaking like the taste and smell of your coffee. And so,
We can't hardly hear you.
oh, sorry. I'm speaking too softly. I'm stepping back too much.
So the question is, can you take this module? And is it to be more effective in a younger generation before all the negative stimuli is introduced to this brain? When it's teaching module be more effective at a younger age and continuously throughout adulthood, instead of taking the adulthood that we're in now where we have those negative. I mean, is that something that could be more beneficial?
Absolutely.
And then
Yeah.
why isn't it being done? I mean,
Great question. Yeah.
because at the younger age, they don't have those negative experiences, even though their brains are already programmed. The more positive you can program them, then they can have those stepping stones.
Yeah, you can give them that balance earlier on, simply by having a gratitude practice with the child before that time. Yeah, I think that's a really beautiful thought and definitely worthwhile. Thank you.
Put it into the schools. I'm sorry.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. A lot more social emotional. Any question?
Yes, I was wondering, like, is it kind of a balance of gratitude? Because it's great to, think about that in practice. If I find like some people, like when you are experiencing something bad, think, oh, there's so many people that have it worse than me, which is true, but then sometimes you can kind of neglect that, what you're experiencing is, still affecting you, even though other people might have it, it still feels bad for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a form of emotional suppression, right? To say like, oh yeah, it's bad, but it's not that bad. So I'm just not going to feel my pain from that.
The form of denial.
It includes some empathy as a good excuse, right? I feel worse for those people, so I'm not going to feel bad for me. Good thought, thank you.
So in your studies, have you looked at why people or, you know, shy away from those big things?
Say that one more time, people
Well,
shy
I'm
away.
wondering why people, you know, aren't drawn to like the meditation as much as they are to other outside things that are distracting, you know, or chaotic. So is there, have you touched on why people are averse to that?
Why people are resistant to developing a meditation
Yeah,
practice.
exactly.
Yeah, it requires a great deal of discipline. And we're not very good at that, especially these days. You know, I've got my back pocket, I can't go anywhere without this stupid thing. I was just so distracted all the time. I even need it to meditate, isn't it ridiculous? How about you?
Well, I think one of the reasons we have this bias for negativity is that basically when you let it around by a little power called points,
Mhm.
we have very few questions and is suspicious of everything.
Mhm.
It's like the first gate sensation. Those have to go through the brainstem. The brainstem is looking for trouble.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And it keeps us alive, which is
Well, yeah, I
nice.
mean,
But it misinterprets threats pretty often. Keeps us on high alert when we don't need to be so afraid all the time.
sort of constant struggle between the brainstem and the prefrontal.
Mhm.
Brainstem will sacrifice the herd to preserve the specimen.
Mhm.
And the prefrontal will sacrifice the specimen to preserve the herd. It seems like what you're trying here is to try and emphasize those characteristics.
The prefrontal cortex is absolutely involved in this practice. And even deeper, we go to the insula, which is kind of the connecting point between the brainstem that you're referring to and the cortex. We're connecting the limbic system and the cognitive function of our brain. But that's one of the places where we see a lot of camel leaves when people are practicing loving kindness meditation.
So just a question for the room. Can you all hear her well enough, or should I turn up the mic? I could. Okay, I'll turn it up a little bit. And then my other question was, has there been a demonstration either through objective or subjective measures of increased flow states and increased access to flow states among people who already have that ability? Like, is that something that's been shown with this meditation practice?
I haven't found it yet, and I really want to study it. So I have been working with a colleague to kind of develop a little pilot study. If anyone's interested, if you already have kind of a creative practice, you want to try adding some loving kindness meditation, and we'll measure whether or not it has improved flow state access or even just creativity in general. And you talk to me afterwards. Yeah, I am very interested in that.
I find this fascinating. And I'll resonate with my own discipline, which is what I call everything I do. Especially with meditation, I'm a musician. So in order for me to create, someone will have to be on one stage in some point, and then this is more brick and mortar part of it, of putting everything together. But I have a question that my perspective is every thought resonates throughout my entire body, image, memory, and so. And when I'm not thinking, I feel heartbeat, two things. I feel like I have a space on the inside of my brain between my ears for processing, thinking, whatever's coming through my five senses, intuition, whatever. My thinking also is like really fast. And seems to have increased as far as problem solving, going through the process. And I'm like 70, and I was like, well, decline, I don't feel that at all. So, here's my question, I'm not ready to show. The residual is just normal clear. And for example, guided meditation with somebody looking at me, smiling, I always wonder, well, okay, they had a great life, and like they're happy with it. And that I'm grateful that they're sharing that. So, but the benefit for meditating is change. Quiet. It seems natural to gratitude. I just found out that I had a stroke sometime, which was shocking. So what's the purpose of me knowing this? I don't know what I had, and it seems, I don't know what the side effects are. And what's the message for me at this point? The message is, don't be easy and enjoy it. So I guess it's more of a comment.
Yeah, what I'm hearing you say is you're kind of expressing some gratitude for having a meditation practice all these years. And that you feel it has helped you to be more present and naturally grateful.
Absolutely. It seems like it's not a byproduct, it's central, and it's not something that the company, I'm going to be interested in gratitude for that. I think maybe because it's social being that that's a natural thing. I don't know.
In case you guys couldn't hear that, that was a very interesting comment, that perhaps because we are social beings, that being in a state of gratitude and appreciation is actually a natural state. Maybe so. But as we practice meditation, we do learn to become more present, especially like the mindfulness practices help us. I have a lot of mental chatter that keeps me from being present. So if I'm out of practice, I can't pay attention as well, and I'm not as present, and I'm constantly not as appreciative and grateful because I don't even notice. I think that's what you're getting at, is just that practice allows you not only to be in a state of presence, but to be in a state of receptivity creatively and to naturally be grounded and beautiful.
So is it like meditate, just the meditative practice hits all these brainwave frequencies, and what you've been able to do is measure each one and specify which practice enhances which way.
Yeah.
I'd like to change directions though, really quick before we get too far on that train of thought. And I know you have some samples of some things that you wanted to show. I think we can take more questions. We still have more time, but I did want to get to one of those samples so that we could reflect on that and ask some questions about it afterwards.
Yeah.
Do you want to share that now and then take more questions afterwards?
Absolutely. So I've shared with you some informal ways to practice loving kindness, just through gratitude and appreciation. I'd like to lead you all in a more formal loving kindness practice. So I'm just going to, I'll just lead you all with my voice. And so you don't have to keep looking up here. And I'll just invite you to put both feet flat on the floor, rest your hands wherever they're comfortable in your lap. If you'd like to close your eyes, you may. If you prefer to keep sort of a soft gaze instead of pointing in front of you, you're welcome to do that. And as you're sitting relaxed, see if you can lift your shoulders back to let your heart space be a little more open. And just begin to notice your breathing. Notice the gentle rise and fall of your belly with each breath. And as you continue breathing, shift your focus to the center of your chest. And imagine that you're breathing in and out of your heart center. You can let the corners of your mouth turn up just slightly to smile down at your heart. And I'd like you to draw to mind a target for your loving kindness. It may be a loved one, a friend, a pet, a place. It's up to you. Whatever's coming to mind is just fine. Don't think too hard about it. Picture your target in front of you. And as you continue breathing through your heart center, recite these phrases to them in your mind. May you be loved. May you be happy. May you be at peace. And again, may you be may you be happy. May you be at peace. And once more, may you be well. May you be happy. May you be at peace. And now imagine the one who was before you receiving this loving kindness from you. As you continue breathing in your heart center. As the rest is spreading in. And when you're ready, open your eyes and turn to the moon. Would anyone like to share what that experience was like? This is often the case.
I found it very difficult we've had a really busy weekend here at Alluvium, as I kind of mentioned at the introductory comments. I found it very difficult to feel get to the point where I kind of give myself permission to have any positive feelings. We had, it's kind of one of the themes that's come up at a lot of these things that we've done has been the theme of negative emotions, and just, I think that it's very much the natural state for me anyways, to have a lot of negative emotions and sort of not let myself transcend any kind of being surrounded by those negative thoughts. So that's what it was like for me. I just felt like it's really hard to sort of give myself permission to feel anything healing or positive. And I just, as I quiet my mind, all these negative emotions kind of rush into that vacuum.
Yeah. So it was a struggle to get there. All you eventually can get there. And that's okay, that happens. And that was a really short practice. So many of us will need a longer period of time to get to that target state where we really are generating those gamma waves and feeling that oneness and connectedness. A little trick you can use before you go into sending loving kindness, to just begin generating positive emotions in yourself, is to draw upon a positive memory and really feel into that memory, and then you can transition. So that is something to try.
I feel kind of relaxed, just relaxed, and hoping that the individual that I was projecting, with many pictures of that individual, for every word that I said, maybe, well, a picture, maybe happy, I actually changed happy to content. Maybe, well, maybe content, maybe have love, I added that one. A different picture came up with each other, and a picture from my memory. And I felt more relaxed now in thinking about that person.
I love that that was your experience.
So I just,
So there are two key things in what you just said that I would love to sort of highlight. One, for many of us, our natural state is to be sort of concerned or worried about people we care about. And so rather than indulging in the worry, we can shift to sending loving kindness. And they're both kind of, worry is praying for what you don't want. Sending loving kindness is sort of praying for what you do want for them. And so, yeah, we feel more at peace when we aren't engaging the negative thoughts, we're engaging positive thoughts. And then the other thing that I loved is that you changed the words. And that's perfect because there are no magic words with this. You can send whatever form of loving kindness you want, whatever words are meaningful to you. And if you're really honest, you can even send them to yourself. Self-compassion also falls into this category. Thank you. I have one more experience to share with you all tonight. I was a part of a project and a collaborator here. Christopher is here. He and I collaborated on this postcard meditation project. And I'm not going to give it too much of an introduction because I'm going to play the meditation for you that we created and then you have your own experience of it. And then I'll talk a little more about how the postcard is involved after that you watch it. All right, it's just 5 minutes. At this very moment, voyaging through space, a set of nomadic care packages are reaching out with open-hearted hospitality and love. The golden records aboard the Voyagers 1 and 2 were launched nearly 44 years ago and have traveled over 11 million miles, taking them beyond the reaches of our solar system.
They carry greetings in many languages, the ordinary sounds of Earth, along with music from the hearts of many cultures. And these images you're seeing, as well as others, of life on Earth. The golden records include sets of patterns to access the information. All that is needed are desire and effort from any being who may receive them. These golden records are steeped in the love of their creators. They are Carl Sagan and Andrew Yan's ultimate mixtape of love. Here, for yourself.
My name is Annie Drian, and I was honored to be the creative director of the Voyager Interstellar Message Project, which began in early 1977 with half a dozen very flawed human beings with huge holes in our knowledge of all of these subjects, building a cultural Noah's Ark. It was a chance to tell something of what life on Earth was like to beings of perhaps 1,000 million years from now. It was also the season that Carl Sagan and I fell so madly in love with each other. And here we were taking on this mythic challenge and knowing that before it was done, 2 spacecraft would lift off from the planet Earth, and on it would be a kiss, a mother's first words to her newborn baby. Come on now. Mozart. Bach. Beethoven. Greetings in the 59 most populous human languages.
Shalom.
Hello from the children of planet Earth. And it was a sacred undertaking because it was saying, we want to be citizens of the cosmos. We want you to know about us.
And now, this 3rd spacecraft has arrived in the form of a small postcard to your mailbox. An extension of the love that launched 4 decades ago.
These messages of love are streaming out now across the universe. Let's take a moment to be with these far out gestures. So hopeful, so beautiful. Just experience this love now. So, as we flow through tremors and quakes of awakening to a new era together, it is powerful to remember who we are.
Global citizens, neighbors, and friends. A fellowship bound together by the wonders of love.
And we hope the vibrations of this invitation reach and expand in your own heart. May we see and know ourselves. May we live open-heartedly. And may we see and know the love that is always present and forever reaching out. So you may have heard a bit of a loving kindness meditation at the end of that, right? In our own words. So I have a postcard for anybody who would like one tonight. And the idea is that you would write a little note to someone you love and put it in the mail. And then they can scan the QR code on the back and see this meditation, this loving kindness meditation. I'd love for you guys to take one if you like, and if you have any thoughts or questions about what you just experienced there, or anything else we talked about tonight.
Before we part, I do want to say a few things. Kendra, you have a bunch of other audio messages that are available for free. So how do people find those? I found them to be very spiritually nourishing.
Great, thank you. I am a teacher on the Insight Timer app. So if you have Insight Timer, you can find me on there. You can also go to my website, kendravita.com, and you can learn more about me. I'm a professional counselor too. I'm a professional counselor, a meditation instructor, and I'm doing this collaborative creative work with Christopher at the Resonance Building. And you can find me as a teacher at Insight Timer. And I do have one more little plug to share. At the Resonance Building, we are putting together creative and embodied workshops. We call them field trips. And we have one coming up next week that is going to be a flow state drawing workshop on Saturday. So that is resonancebuilding.com, where you can find more information about that. It'll be live on Zoom, and our instructor is just fantastic. Her art is the sound of the pencil on the paper. But she is an art teacher at the University of Kansas, and she led a workshop for us last fall. It was incredible. You don't have to be good at drawing to come to this. You can just enjoy the sound of the pencil on the paper and draw trees with us. Thank you all. Thank you for having me.
Before we close out, we will be giving Kendra a big round of applause for that really lovely presentation. I just thought I would mention that we do this every Sunday at 6. So this is our 6 o'clock discussion series. And if you haven't been to Alluvium before, I'll just recap that the goals of this discussion series are to provide insights from leaders in the community who want to provide spiritual nourishment. So we want to provide spiritually nourishing insights. And that's really the most central mission that we have here at Alluvium. We do hope that this series will evolve into a series of micro lectures that we can then host as a TED type talk, and maybe on a Saturday evening have a bunch of speakers come in and then host it, record it, and put it online. I will also be recording this lecture. I've been recording this lecture, and I'll be posting it online. So check out our YouTube channel for Alluvium for this lecture and many other lectures. I would also encourage you all to come visit us next week as well, when we'll be joined by a Fulbright scholar and Stanford University professor, Svetlana Putka, whose expertise, she's Ukrainian, and her expertise is in Ukrainian geopolitics. She's been on Ukrainian national television and national news on several occasions, and she's really an intellectual leader for the current conflict and a lot of the history of Ukraine. So that'll be a really fascinating presentation as well. Lastly, I'm just going to say that we will be starting an open mic. I'll put out the sign-up sheet. That's going to start at 7, as it usually does. I do want to remind people that we'll be starting maybe just with a few minutes buffer, because I do want people to have the chance to talk with Kendra individually. So the open mic does start at 7, but if there's a lot of conversation with Kendra, we're happy to push that back a little bit. And lastly, I will say there is a tip jar. So our ethos is, if and only if you have the means and the desire to contribute, feel free to make a contribution into the tip jar. It's obviously not compulsory, and we definitely, if you don't have the means, still want you to join us and be a part of our community. We do have some homemade cookies that were contributed by the Indigenous ceremony that we hosted here at Alluvium yesterday, which was a 6-hour ceremony, which was really very nourishing. And so they brought us some cookies, and they left us with some cookies. We also have some junk food over there that's left over from the metal show last night. So anyways, and I'll put out the open mic sign-up sheet. I think that's it. Kendra, do you have any other comments that you want to give to the crowd before we?
It's lovely to be with you all. Thank you.
Please join me in giving a really big round of applause.